hindsight's always 2020 and seems like obvious and clear. But in the beginning, it was not as obvious that, the world needed fresh pet food. And I'd say there were a few different things that we were looking at. One of them was definitely the ideology around human nutrition was changing, like how people thought about food and good food and nourishing themselves and their families was really changing. And it was moving to this area where they wanted fresher food, they wanted less processed food, more natural, and they were changing the way they were eating. So that was something that was really developing. We were watching that. And the other thing that was developing and was talked about for years, you'll hear this terminology of humanization of pets. And what was happening was the relationship with pets in our lives was changing, and kind of that extreme owner that had their dog sleeping in their bed or was buying a bed for their dog, really was kind of becoming more and more mainstream. So we were watching the relationship the consumer had with their pets, the nutrition that they were thinking about, and said, wow, there's an opportunity to really change the way we're feeding our pets in the industry. And I would say early on, I think exactly to many times when you start something that's so different, people thought it was silly. We were openly laughed at. I was open, I remember going to Whole Foods one time, and literally it was almost like a pitch slam kind of thing at Whole Foods, and there were 100 people, and I put up my first slide, which was the future of pet food is fresh. And this is 2010, so this is a massively bold statement. And I literally, from that moment, I was started to be heckled from this audience of about 100 people, and it got so crazy. They were literally arguing among themselves. And I ended up not being able to even present the majority of the discussion. It was pretty wild. So I think there were a lot of skeptics in the early days, and I think tenacity. I think that us really kind of believing in what it was, doing a lot of really good consumer work, and really kind of looking at those underlying changes was what gave us confidence and the belief that there was a lot of potential here. So obviously, we started to see these changes become mainstream even in 2010. And there was an early talk about, millennial. We didn't know what Gen Z was at that point, but there started to be these early changes in that relationship that people were having with their pets. And again, as I was mentioning about how they thought about food. And what we saw was, if you really kind of back up and think about it, what we're feeding our pets was this kind of dried meatball that sits on the shelf for up to 2 years, kibble, right? And it was accepted conventional wisdom. And I think what happened is the industry started realizing there was this humanization of pets trend going on, and they have billions and billions of dollars of existing technology and know-how. And that was in extrusion or kibble. And that was the other piece of it was retorting and canning. And I think what they have done, and they've done a really nice job, is they've really tried to take the existing technology and infrastructure they had, and they tried to continue to adapt it over time. So they started doing kibble that looked a little differently or a little bit better. They started doing kibble that had more meat content. So they raised the meat content versus the carbohydrate content. So they really tried to adapt what they had. And I think they've done a nice job marketing it to consumers. And what we did is, instead of trying to adapt what we had, we started with a completely clean slate. And we felt like the fresh food was really going to be that answer. Now, I think when you get to the next level down, so you kind of go forward in history and you look at millennial and Gen Z, and they're really a consumer force now today. They have, economic means. They have a very different relationship with their pets than some other groups have had historically. They are delaying sometimes relationships and getting married. They're delaying kids. And then pet is the first child, like more than probably any other generation in history. That pet is their buddy and their child in a way. And I think just there's this human nature where people want to care for, something, an animal, or a kid. And I think that those pets are really becoming that piece for them. I think you like to steal kind of things from different places, but we like to use the analogy of, you never want to be where the puck is, you want to be where the puck is moving to, quoting, Wayne Gretzky. And we believe what we've done is created a product and a company that is where the puck is moving to. them. And I think what's happened is over the past 5 and 7 years, more recently, I think what's happened is the early retailers demonstrated success. And that success, we were able to take the data and information, and not only just the sales data, but also the consumer information, and walk into other retailers and all of them, even the existing ones, and start looking at and go, hey, fresh pet food has higher frequency. Fresh pet food has category leading margins. Fresh pet food brings in new consumers. Fresh pet food is, it's more dollars for a consumer. It's a better product for a consumer, in many ways. And it really helping them start to think about, wow, this can be an important part of the aisle of the future. And we started this initiative called Fresh First. And the goal was we wanted to train retailers that when they started laying out their pet food aisle, instead of thinking dry first and kibble first, we wanted them to start the aisle with fresh food. And I would say we put that in place 5 years ago. And I would say today that is happening because retailers recognize that the absolute best place to buy fresh pet food is quite honestly in a place where consumers are buying their fresh food for themselves and their family. And also, it's a real point of difference versus many of the other pet products that are on the shelf, many of the other dry products. So I think that the original vision that we had of that idea of fresh first and setting the aisle, I think it's set in today. Retailers are now incredibly excited. It's becoming a bigger and bigger piece of their category, and it's a leading growth engine for their category. And they really want to be, a big piece of the future of pet food. So we wanted to build a company that we would be proud of. And as people learned more and more about it, consumers would really kind of appreciate that company. So I think we really tried to build, and when you start from a clean sheet of paper, you can do many things that's hard for a very big, large, established company to do. So we basically put in a whole set of principles, practices, and ideologies. And the way we think about it is we think about if we have great purpose in our work and what we're doing, that creates incredible passion for our team. And those people become really communicators of what that is. And it really starts to show up from a consumer standpoint. And so we felt like that was really important. The other thing that's so important when we do that and we start thinking about the entire model is we need to make sure that a consumer at the end of the day, people like to think they're logical, but the reality is they're emotional animals. They really are. So they make decisions based on some logic, but a lot of emotion. So we knew that we had to make not just products that were great nutrition for pets, but it had to appeal to the other person, which was the owner. So it had to have that. So the emotional motivation for a pet parent is I need to make sure that I am basically doing a great job and being a great mom or dad. And if you can do that, if you can get them to feel comfortable that they're being that great mom or dad for the products that they're buying for their pet and have that great nutrition, that's where the center of your message is. Having great people in your company is always just critical. I mean, it's cliche, but it's about the people. The people can make a company and they can break a company. So we really want to put in as much as possible, everyone to believe in the purpose, the mission, be passionate about it, and what we're trying to build. So I think historically we'd had a lot of that, and we really had, people really kind of believing in what we're doing and how we're trying to change a category and provide better nutrition for pets. But I think what we felt like we needed to do during COVID was we need to take a massive step forward and not just have a great basically base, but we need to change the way we thought about compensating people that worked in our kitchens. And we do think of them, it's not manufacturing, it's our kitchens. So we think about that first. But what we did is we put in place what we call the Freshpet Academy. And the goal was to empower people to be able to develop skills. And as they develop more and more skills, they were able to graduate to different pay levels. I think it's pretty unique. First of all, I think we paid well to start with. And now we empowered people to be able to kind of raise their pay over time. So you have a lot of passion. You have people that are really empowered in order to kind of raise their salary and their compensation over time that were really part of something. So now we ended up with the most competent, best skilled people. When we think about where pet food is today and where we're going from a fresh standpoint, I think we go back to the original vision, and we recognize that there was this great opportunity. And I think what's happened is we have been incredibly hardworking and incredibly fortunate that it's really developed into something that is going to change the category forever. We came up with this ideology of fresh first, and that was not only for retailers, it was also for consumers. We wanted consumers to think, I want to put down fresh food first for my pet versus dry first or canned first. And we've started to see that really develop. Now, what's happened is as we've developed that and we've basically cut the swath through the jungle and paved the road, there have been others that have come in and started to join what we're doing. And they've taken some different cuts at it. What we do is we want to think of, we always want to be the leaders in the category, and that's in the products that we bring, the type of innovation that we're bringing to market, and the entire portfolio of products. And when we first developed this, it was a first mover advantage, and then it became a know-how advantage on all the things we know. And now we're moving to something that's a scale advantage, where because we're larger, bigger, we have a large portfolio of products, we're able to have incredible scale in what we do. And not only manufacturing scale, but that's advertising scale, it's supply chain scale, it's know-how scale. And now we're even working on future ways that we actually develop and make our products, where they're even a much more mature manufacturing technologies. So we see a really, really bright future, and we want to continue to be the leader in the category and in fresh pet food for many, many years to come.